Oliver John Butterwick.
And I'm Dylan Van Wyck.
And this is
Baker's Boys.
Everybody has that nerdy thing that they just love, and for Dylan, it's Lord of the Rings. So today we're going to be talking about The Hobbit, a movie made by Peter Jackson, which is a prequel to the Lord of the Rings trilogy. So The Hobbit is centering around a character called Bilbo Baggins, who is a hobbit who lives in the Shire. And because of this, he's a very innocent and uncorrupted character in Middle-earth. It's a great place for the audience to start, because we're just as innocent as he is at the beginning of the journey. Bilbo's character development and his journey taken through the trilogy starts as a very innocent and kind of comfort-loving hobbit who lives in the Shire, and it ends of him being kind of a very brave and courageous warrior.
His journey begins with a horde of dwarfs entering his building, his house, his hobbit hole. So they begin knocking on his door, and they enter one by one, and then finally a large group with Gandalf on his back, behind them. Sorry, and we see the initial kind of relationship between Bilbo and Gandalf, and it starts off as a more love-hate relationship. Bilbo knew Gandalf as a child through his fireworks, and then eventually Gandalf came back to see him as he is like a celestial being, basically. He had a vision of Bilbo doing what he had done for Middle-earth, taking the ring, demolition of Smaug, so on.
In the first movie, An Unexpected Journey, we see Bilbo with the gang of dwarves, and some of them are very nice to him, but mostly their leader Thorin, who's a very noble and courageous character. He's also the king of a kind of desolate kingdom of dwarfs, is quite hostile to him, and he doesn't really respect Bilbo. But during the movie, Bilbo saves Thorin's life in a very courageous act, and that kind of sets up their friendship for the rest of the trilogy, and it's a very beautiful friendship.
At the beginning of An Unexpected Journey, we see Bilbo Baggins waking up post the dwarves leaving his house. They've left it nice and tidy and clean. So he then begins regretting his decision and ends up chasing the dwarves and catching up to them. He presents the contract that he signed, and then begins to get a pony, which he was very hesitant to get on. And then after this, we see Bilbo Baggins saying that he forgot his handkerchief and that they must turn back. So this kind of shows us that Bilbo is regretting his decision. It just shows his character as being kind of creature comforts and a man of the Shire.
This contrasts completely with the end of the trilogy, where he returns back to the Shire and he enters his house, and because he's been gone so long, everyone thinks he's dead, so they've auctioned off all his stuff. So he comes into his house, which is completely empty of all his furniture, and that kind of shows how he's changed throughout the journey, how the comforts of the Shire have been taken out of his hobbit hole.
So when we see Bilbo Baggins collecting the ring from Gollum's cave, we get introduced to his kind of relation with it. So he initially doesn't tell Gandalf that he has it, and he kind of pushes away the question that Thorin asks him of how did he escape. And it's just interesting because I know that Tolkien, he's a fan of kind of bringing other issues into his stories. So one of the things that he liked to focus on was addiction. So we kind of see like the guilt that Bilbo has with the possession of the ring, which could be kind of,
Could be likened to addiction in certain ways, and not opening up about it, and being very attached to it as well. So the idea of dragon sickness is very similar to the one of all rings. Is that right? One of all rings?
The one ring above all. To rule them all. To rule them all. There you go.
The idea of dragon sickness is very similar to the effects that the One Ring has on Bilbo and Frodo later. It's this idea that it makes the dwarves, because it's a dwarven ring, it makes the dwarves very greedy of their possessions and their gold. And this affects Thorin a lot when they finally do get to Erebor, which is the kingdom under the mountain, which Thorin is the king of. And this completely changes his character, And when he gets over this lust for greed, it's a very big turning point in the final movie called The Battle of the Five Armies, and it shows his kind of full arc as a very noble person.
I don't think you can talk about Thorin. No, I don't think you can talk about Thorin without mentioning the Arkenstone, because the Arkenstone is the main kind of reason for his. That's like his one desire is to find the Arkenstone, which obviously we know Bilbo took it during his conversation with Smaug, and his lust and his desire to get that one stone, which is similar to the ring, right? It other than the ring, the Arkenstone doesn't have literal power, but it has like power, but of kingdoms. Like it basically, if you have the Arkenstone, it means you are king. So the difference between the ring and the Arkenstone, but also the similarities, is also like a really cool element that we see throughout mostly the Desolation of Smaug. During The Hobbit, we see the Necromancer in Dol Guldur. That's a tongue twister. Who is unknown to most of Elrond's council. They just believe that he's a human sorcerer who's been dabbling in dark magic, but it turns out that he is Sauron. It was smart of Sauron to keep this kind of persona and his image on the down low, because he was just portrayed as like a measly just man, and this allowed him to get time to kind of build up more power and more strength, and then evidently Gandalf went to Dol Guldur to go check out what was going on, because he knew he got tasked by Galadriel to go there and check it out and see what was going on. When he met with the Necromancer Sauron, they had a very cinematic battle, which I thought looked great. Extremely good. The CGI was great. It almost reminded me of like a Harry Potter movie.
Yeah.
You know, Voldemort versus Harry when they do the spells.
Yeah, very dynamic.
Yeah, it was really cool to see the contrast between dark and light. I really enjoyed that part of the movie personally. And he's gained the ring, so that has increased his power. He's got one of the dwarven rings now. So he's able to now portray the Eye of Sauron, which is a really cool build-up and a good explanation into the Lord of the Rings, when we see obviously the Eye of Sauron, which is one of the main parts of the movie. But it's just a cool development. Obviously, in the end, Galadriel comes and then she kind of banishes Sauron into an abyss. I'm not sure exactly what happens there. But yeah, that part of the movie is very interesting, and Sauron is just... It's good that they managed to include him in the story without making him like the main part of it.
Yeah. It also really sets up very well for the Lord of the Rings in terms of Sauron being the villain, because obviously he is banished by Galadriel, but we can see the like toll it takes on her physically when she has to do this. So it sets up Sauron really well as an evil character, as he's kind of displayed in this dark mist, and he's very... obviously it shows how powerful he is throughout, which sets up really well for the rest of the trilogy.
So Smaug is one of the main parts of the film, we know that. Desolation of Smaug being one of the names of the movies. So Smaug is a dragon that has come down from the north due to the rise in power. So Sauron, now regaining his power, building orc armies, has encouraged Smaug to come down and take Erebor, because he knew that the light was getting weaker in Middle-earth. So he went down there, he took the Misty Mountain, he took Erebor, took all the gold, because that's the one thing that dragons love, you know that. And then we see obviously the party trying to take back Erebor and fighting Smaug, which was honestly it's one of the best scenes. The fight scene when they take down Smaug they light the furnaces, and the whole gold scene. Yeah, they cover him in gold to defeat. Like it's a really creative way of killing a dragon. Yeah. Also, Benedict Cumberbatch was really good. Who was the voice actor of Smaug. So after the Desolation of Smaug, it ends on a cliffhanger with Smaug leaving Erebor, which is a big win for the dwarves. However, were some consequences to their battle, as they did not end up killing Smaug. He went to Lake Town as they figured out that Bilbo and some of the other dwarves had friends in Lake Town, and Smaug wanted to take revenge. So he ended up destroying about 60% of the city, and during that kind of process, that fighting process, we see Bard the Bowman climbing up on the bell tower, and he is there with a bow. So he's initially shooting Smaug with normal arrows, and then his son brings him the black arrow, and we know what the black arrows are. The black arrows are kind of a ballistic arrow that were originally used in Dale to try and fight Smaug. However, the only damage they did was they knocked off a scale, and then we see Bard shooting Smaug eventually with using his son's shoulder, and he kills him, which I kind of like that they didn't. It wasn't just like instantly like they killed Smaug off. There was like some real consequences, because the majority of Lake Town, well, I'd say all of it was destroyed.
Lots of people died.
And most of the people died. And then the people of Lake Town took refuge back in Dale, which where I believe they're originally from. Yeah, we see Bard continue as a character. I quite like his character. I thought it was quite noble. He annoyed me a little bit when he opposed the dwarves, but I understood why. And it's good writing. I mean, if a writer can get you annoyed, but then also love a character, you know, that's just peak. But yeah, so we see Bard then kind of having an alliance with the elves. I mean, their army is nothing to the elves. Like, it doesn't help them at all. It's more a liability. More a liability.
Pitchforks,
But he tried to negotiate with Thorin, failed. And then, then they had to fight the orcs, the incoming enemy from the mountains to the west, I believe. No, the south. They were coming from the south, using the Earth Eaters, the Great Earth Eaters, digging tunnels, which was Azog's army. And then later we see from the north another orc army. I forgot what the names.
They got killed instantly, though.
Yeah, but they got massacred by the eagles, and also Bjorn, the bear, which I love his character. I mean, it's a small part of the film.
It really is, but he's a pretty cool guy.
Yeah.
He's a shapeshifter that's basically a dude, but he turns into a bear sometimes.
Yeah, and his whole species was killed by orcs.
Yeah. So
he was the last one left. So that's why he ended up helping the dwarves, because he hates orcs more.
Yeah. What's so good about the trilogy, The Hobbit and also The Lord of the Rings, is every character, however small, like Bjorn the bear, has a very complex kind of backstory that you get, and it gives it embeds the reader with this kind of world building that Tolkien does, because we care about each character and we understand the motivations behind all their actions, and because of that, it's a very intriguing story.
Yeah, it keeps you hooked. I want to mention how effective Peter Jackson was from taking a 300-word book, which is not long compared to The Lord of the Rings, and managing to put that and make 3.5-hour films.
Big movies,
and it's not like it gets boring or anything. It's constantly entertaining. Yeah. I've read the book 2 or 3 times, and I don't get bored of it.
Yeah.
For some people, it's not their thing because it's a bit too fast-paced, and I mean, a lot happens in a very short amount of time. But personally, that just keeps me engaged. Yeah. Which I think, I honestly, Peter Jackson's a bloody miracle worker.
Yeah.
He is mental with his work in The Lord of the Rings, and then coming back and doing The Hobbit, and it being. I think The Lord of the Rings may be a little bit better, but that's probably just because of the story. But I still think coming back, making prequels, and then being that good is.
Yeah. I think the story of The Hobbit, to kind of summarize and conclude, does really well at setting up, even though it's a prequel and obviously written after and made as a movie afterwards, it sets up the story of The Lord of the Rings really well, with the themes of kind of greed, the ring, Sauron's rise to power, and also kind of showing the different factions in a really good way.
Overall, Hobbit's a great film. Watched it many, many times. I will probably watch it many, many more times.
Big nerd about Hobbit, this guy.
Love it very much. Childhood film for me, and happy I introduced it to Ollie.
Yeah, it was very good. Thought it was gonna be a bit trash. Can't lie.
It wasn't.
No, but it
It
wasn't.
was very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching, guys.